Scott Steiner was not at Wrestle Kingdom 12.
Thank God.
The numbers don't lie.
Samoa Joe got 142 and 2/3 chance of winning. God, no, it's terrible. Fucking awful.
Yeah. Welcome to Kayfabe Club, where this is a special episode. We're going to be talking about Wrestle Kingdom 12.
Oh, guys, you lost your Wrestle Kingdom cherries. How was it?
I loved it.
Yeah?
It's like 9-10 matches. It's 9 matches on the card, and then the Rumble at the beginning.
I think so. Either 9 or 10.
Oh God, the Cheeseburger Rumble.
There were a handful. Or
Cheeseburger versus One Punch Man.
There's probably
You're right. That's exactly what it was.
probably 3 or 4 matches that really, really stick out in my head as being just amazing matches the whole way through. We'll get to that in a moment.
Sure.
We'll, of course, start it out with the Rumble. It's fucking weird.
Okay, so yeah, if you haven't seen it, the New Japan Rumble is more. It's not like our Rumble. You've got someone coming in. It starts out with 2 men, of course. You've got someone coming in about every 60 seconds, and I mean, it really is nothing but the low on the card guys, and then a couple legends. You know, we had Jushin Thunder Liger in there.
Tiger Mask.
Tiger Mask showed up. Chase Owens to represent the Bullet Club. We had like half of Suzuki-Gun. Cheeseburger from Ring of Honor, who is the perennial jobber.
Tokyo Latina.
Tokyo Latina shows up with Yujiro. Tokyo Latina was my favorite part of the Rumble. I think probably Thackeray's as well.
Which is my favorite part of Wrestle Kingdom. It was all downhill from there.
That's fair.
It was all downhill.
So shit. What? We get the apologetic Guido, Gino Gambino, I believe is what we called him. He's Australian, but looks like he's from the Jersey Shore. The Rumble was fine. It went about 30 minutes. It ended with Kakihara. I believe it's Masahito Kakihara coming back from cancer, basically, and getting the heartwarming Rumble win. It really did.
He has the look of One Punch Man.
Oh, well,
but without any of the one punch strength.
He's like 47.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's not. This, I think my one sort of complaint about Wrestle Kingdom was that, given the sort of volume of the subscriber count, the sort of promotion that was done, the expected viewership, and the fact that New Japan wants to expand. I get having Kakihara win for Japan as this sort of.
It's a feel-good story.
Right. But it's only a feel-good story if you know who the fuck Kakihara is.
Well, they did mention it a bunch of times that he had recently recovered from cancer.
Right.
Did they? Was the announce team announcing the Rumble?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, and
I
they
truthfully
did,
was complaining about Tokyo Latina not being on the screen after What's His Nuts was like.
This is not incorrect.
That's true.
What
you were in fact complaining about this exact thing. Of why are we not focused more on Tokyo Latina?
The remainder of the Rumble.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah.
Which is fair.
And then I looked up and Cheeseburger didn't win and I was definitely out.
So yeah, Kakihara won, heartwarming story.
Cheeseburger has the look of like if you took Kofi Kingston, shortened his hair, and like made him drop, I'd say 50 pounds.
Oh yeah, without question.
Like if you were to take Kofi Kingston but make him anorexic.
Oh, if Cheeseburger is more than 150 pounds, I'm shocked.
The guy who got offense on Lars Sullivan at NXT this week is more.
Oh yeah, Leo
hefty
Rush
than Cheeseburger.
Yeah,
Cheeseburger looks like skinny to the point where you're concerned about his health.
Sure. No, you're absolutely.
Which is something you shouldn't be like concerned about of people who are punching each other in the ring. You're like, is he okay? There's a strong gust that comes through the Tokyo Dome. This dude might fly the fuck away.
I'm honestly surprised it didn't happen. So yeah, Kakihara takes the Rumble. It was fine, and then we actually start Wrestle Kingdom 12 with the Young Bucks versus Roppongi 3K.
It was an ad that the both of them, I think, got work injuries,
right?
Like I guess storyline injuries, and
yeah,
that kind
I
of like
agree.
I don't say ruin the match, but it didn't live up to like the Young Bucks matches that I had seen before,
Sure.
just because like one of the guys from Roppongi 3K in like the silver shorts, I don't remember,
Yeah,
got injured, like his like leg was hurt, and then after like was like a suicide dive or something like that. Matt Jackson.
Yeah, it was Matt Jackson and Show from Roppongi 3K.
ended up hurting his back. So like there was a lot of like weird spots in it where they were trying to get each other in and out and hurt it. And you could tell he was walking around. He worked through the match, which was great. I like really respected that, but it just kind of like it was a weird match because of it.
It seemed like some of the spots got called on the fly after that so that they could sort of sell the back, which I think really helped the psychology of the match. Young Bucks get a lot of criticism for not being having ring psychology, but I think if anything, this match clearly shows that they can do spots, but also sort of play into, I really like the spot where Nick doesn't let Matt tap.
That was great.
Yeah, it's really just Matt is about to tap and Nick just stops it. It's really fantastic.
Yeah, they're doing the dueling submissions.
Yeah,
kind of back and forth between Roppongi and the Young Bucks were like
the double sharpshooter was great when both of them had the other in the sharpshooter. They were kind of like looking at each other and they were slapping each other. And it was
like one of the Bucks has one of the members of 3K in the sharpshooter, and then one of the members of 3K has the other Young Buck in the sharpshooter.
Right,
and they're just literally looking at each other, trying to see who can get the tap first.
Right. Yeah. And the Young Bucks actually do win with a sharpshooter. Nick Jackson gets the sharpshooter on Yo, I believe, to win.
They did the Meltzer driver, didn't they?
They did do a Meltzer driver.
It's cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's always cool to see. I mean, it's clearly an attempt for it's clearly sucking up to, I don't know, some famous wrestling journals.
I was listening to an Edge and Christian podcast that had the Young Bucks on, and they were talking about like the origins of the Meltzer driver, and they apparently had the name made before they knew what the move was.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all.
They were like, we know what we want to call it. We just don't know what it is yet.
Sounds right.
The first match that they did it on, they hadn't practiced it, they hadn't done anything else, and they ended up being like truly amazed that it worked out the way that it was supposed to.
Right. Oh, it's crazy because this is something that they innovated.
Yeah, they're super innovative guys.
Absolutely.
I mean, people give them shit for like stealing everybody else's stuff, but really a lot of the offense that they have, with the exception of the super kick, a lot of it's really original.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of criticism for the Young Bucks comes from either people not being able to deal with their personalities, or
I can understand that because
sure.
I have kind of like, I can appreciate it, but I'm not necessarily for it.
Oh, no,
right.
I love it.
I figured Thackeray would appreciate it. Thackeray likes some obnoxious heels.
Yeah, you guys love obnoxious heels so much, and I really have to. It takes me a while to warm up to it.
I know this is a Wrestle Kingdom episode, but I'm wearing an Undisputed Era shirt.
Yeah.
Hey, Adam Cole was on Wrestle Kingdom last year. It's fair. Actually, so was Kyle O'Reilly.
Baby.
They fought each other. But I think also sort of that criticism comes from people who actually haven't seen a full Young Bucks match.
Sure.
And have only seen either, spots or clips. I thought
the
they were
people
great.
who have only seen them on like their Twitter clips,
right,
where they're literally just.
It's like a best of. Like I saw there was they had somebody on the ropes and they did like a top rope sort of like maneuver to the guy's back.
Yeah.
And the guy like slammed on the ground and I was like, man, I saw that spot. And I was like, oh, I mean, that's not the whole match, but like they see that kind of stuff and they're like, oh yeah, like that's the whole thing. And it's not really. Yeah. There are spots. I mean, Nick described them as spot monkeys.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they're good at it.
They kind of get a bad rap because they'll basically take whatever criticism people have about them and turn it into a T-shirt.
Absolutely. And it works.
It's working.
Yeah. I don't want to give them the plug, but you know where to go.
Yeah. There's two places where you can go. Either WrestlingTees.com or Hot Topic.
YoungBucksMerch.com.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, YoungBucksMerch.com.
That'll be $9.95, please, Matt and or Nick.
Roppongi 3K looked good. I didn't want to just talk about the Young Bucks, but the Roppongi 3K looked good as well.
They did.
So
and
I don't want to just...
Coming out of like, for the two of us, we had no idea who these people are. They look incredibly strong.
There's a guy with like an air cannon, like shooting like air and shit.
Rocky Romero.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I knew. That's what I remembered. They both looked like boy band peoples, and it was,
Yeah, like they're a J-pop band.
Yeah. But like a J-pop band that wrestle strong style, so they're a J-pop band that can fucking kill you, which I appreciate.
I have no idea what order these matches.
The gauntlet match next.
I've got the notes. So yeah, next is the 6-man never open weight tag team title match. It starts out with Suzuki-Gun versus War Machine and Michael Elgin.
I really enjoyed this because I kind of really like Suzuki-Gun.
That's fair. Yeah.
I don't know if it's because they have the face that I recognize.
Sure.
Or if it's just that I kind of dig their personalities quite a bit. I don't know anything of what they're saying, but
that's fair.
But the character comes across pretty strongly.
Yeah, they're villains. They're the sort of de facto heel faction in New Japan. And
if I recall correctly, I remember you being surprised by the order that people were coming out.
Yes. I expected Bullet Club to come out first and sort of defend their way through the gauntlet. So I was really surprised.
They were like the fourth or fifth team in.
Yeah. They were actually the last team in. Okay. So they had the advantage here. So the way the order goes is Suzuki-Gun versus War Machine and Michael Elgin. At one point, Ray Rowe hits a really great takedown and knee thrust into Zack Sabre Jr.'s face. Zack Sabre Jr. then follows that up with an arm bar and a heel hook to make him tap out, and War Machine and Michael Elgin are out. They're replaced with Chaos. Chaos ends up being Beretta, Toru Yano, and I can't remember who else. Ishii. Yeah, Ishii. So they actually eliminate Suzuki-Gun real quick because Yano basically just hits a low blow. This is 41 seconds.
Yeah, I remember one of them being real quick, and you were like, this guy, his finisher is a low blow, and I was like, what? And you're like, he just did it, and I was like, oh my god.
Yep. I explained it to Thackeray, and then it happened.
It's just like kick to the junk and down and pin.
Yep, and it works. Chaos then has to go against Taguchi Japan, which was Raisuke Taguchi, Togi Makabe, and Juice Robinson.
That's the one that likes the
Juice Robinson.
Balls deep in Japanese pussy.
Yeah, they were my odds-on favorites.
That's fair. Chaos ends up taking out Taguchi Japan.
Much to my chagrin.
The best part of this portion, Raisuke Taguchi, who is known for using his ass as a weapon, does a shout out to Nakamura, ends up doing the sort of the really excited Kinshasa hand motions, and then the dead man's drop in the corner, and then runs and hits Beretta, I think, with his ass as if it were a Kinshasa, and then hits Yano with it, but Yano gets the inside cradle for the pin, and now Chaos is defending against Bullet Club. This was probably the best actual wrestling portion of the match.
I was really impressed with Tama Tonga.
Tama Tonga is great. Tongaloa?
Tongaloa, yeah. They were great. And Bad Luck Fale just looks like a big
monster
bruiser dude.
Oh, they're great. Tama especially, because Tama is he's a little shorter than Roman Reigns, but he's fucking fast as he moves so fluidly in the ring.
Yeah. I was really impressed with both of them. Didn't they hit a magic killer at one point?
A reverse magic killer. The guerrilla warfare is what they call it.
Okay.
So the big story here, of course, is that Ishii was trying to get a suplex on Bad Luck Fale, which is you don't do. And then he finally sort of pushes him off the ropes and manages to get a German, and the crowd really popped for that. There was also Beretta going for a moonsault, which Tama Tonga caught into a cutter, a gun stun. But Tama ends up eating the Dude Buster from Beretta, and Chaos are your tag team, your new never open weight tag team champions. Did not expect Chaos to win it, but they did.
Briefly.
Yeah, very, very briefly, because the next night at New Year's Dash, they lost it back to Bullet Club. So kind of more of a...
Was it the same three members of Bullet Club?
Yep. It was Fale and the Gorillas of Destiny. So just kind of, I think it was just sort of a quick change. The never title, the never 6-man title isn't quite as protected as some of the other belts. Not that they flippantly change it, but
it's more of just like, let's have some teams go against each other and, whoever.
See what happens.
Right.
Yeah. It's really good. So after that, we get Handsome Battle, as it was billed on the screen.
I cared about one part of this match, and that was the crossroads off of the ring apron.
Oh, it was really nasty.
Was absolutely brutal looking. I saw it on Reddit before I saw the actual match, and it's one of those spots that like you have to go through it frame by frame before you can even see
looked like
where the protection comes in.
Spiked Kota Ibushi.
Yeah.
Well, see, the thing
and
is,
I was like,
Ibushi's got neck problems. Like, he's had neck problems for a good portion of his career. And I think it comes from the fact that he allows himself to be spiked. Like, he's just like, yeah, I'll just throw my fucking skull into the ground. Yeah, no, I mean, it looks horrible.
Yeah.
But it's a great
absolutely
spot.
brutal looking.
Brutiful. I really like that.
Yeah,
before
it is
that,
brutal.
There was a real good, I guess, angle with Brandy where they knocked Kota like sort of knocked Brandy down, and Brandy was like playing
Doing
possum.
Yeah.
And then Don Callis was like, I gotta help Brandy. And I was like, yeah, Don, I gotta help Brandy too.
Everybody's like, let's all help Brandy.
Right.
And then Coda's like actually helping Brandy.
Went to
and
go
then
pick
she's
her
like,
up.
Nah!
Yeah.
I tricked you this whole time.
I believe that's
was
the best Brandy Rhodes impression I've ever seen.
Thanks.
It's real good. It's like she was in the room with us. No. Honestly,
She's just sitting there twirling her mustache.
Oh, yes.
I think realistically, Brandy does help Cody's character though.
Yeah, she did great.
Because
She makes me not concentrate on his long, skinny pipe legs.
that's fair.
He's just so long.
Yeah, no, he really and he's a fine wrestler. He really is.
He does completely fine. He's a perfectly solid worker all the way around.
Yeah, but Brandy makes his character more interesting.
Yeah,
by far. Your finish is so. What do we have? Cody gets lawn darted into the turnbuckle, which looks pretty awful for his neck too.
I fucking every time, and it doesn't matter what promotion this is. Every time that I see someone get lawn darted into a turnbuckle, I cringe.
Yeah, it's a
like,
hard spot.
Audible cringe. I'm just like, ugh.
Right.
Somebody had a spot like
100% of
that
the time.
this
I absolutely
week.
hate those spots.
Did they?
They did that to Aleister Black on NXT, and I was like, I still don't like this.
Still looks painful. So let's see. Ibushi hits the Kamigoye, which is the sort of the pull forward knee to the face, similar to the Kinshasa. And then he hits the Phoenix Splash on Cody, and Ibushi goes over Cody, which is exactly what I expected to happen.
Wait, so he did the King's Landing? The
sort of
revolutionary knee?
So
the
like,
Seth Rollins?
Cody is kneeling, I guess, like he would be for a Kinshasa, but instead Ibushi grabs both of his arms and like pulls him forward as he thrusts the knee. Which it looks really nasty. It sounds really nasty.
2 or 3 people in this promotion have like knee finishes that all look better than Rollins's, and that's like the reoccurring theme. One of the reoccurring themes for me throughout watching this show was that like it just made me
performance-wise, everybody does something that's pretty reminiscent to somebody in the WWE, but
they
all
just
of them
do it
look
better.
But yeah. And speaking of that, we're moving on to the tag match: Killer Elite Squad, Lance Archer and Davey Boy Smith Jr. versus Evil and Sonata.
Holy shit, I love this match.
Yeah, so this is like my honorable mention. Like if I had to rank top 3, this wouldn't be in it, but this would be 4 for me. I really
think
enjoyed
this was my 4 match.
This is Kevin Nash and the British Bulldog versus 2 other guys.
So Lance Archer is basically the Pantera Pirate, which is I'm fine with.
It's like Kevin Nash in skinny jeans.
I want to point out
and
that
bandanas.
I think he's one of the most underrated big guys in the business. Of course, he's working in Japan and not over here. But 2, he's 6'10". Colin Cassidy.
Both of those guys would fit in the WWE today.
Oh, absolutely. And what I was going to say is Colin Cassidy, who is billed at 7 foot tall, Big Cass, is actually 6'10". So Lance Archer is just as tall as Big Cass, and I just want to point out
so much better.
Some of the he's also 40 years old. So I'd like to point out we get a choke slam off of the apron from Lance Archer. He chokeslams Evil onto the Young Boys outside, which is a great spot.
They do a lot of great stuff with the Young Boys where they're just smacking them around.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
Like,
There's like a moment where they're just beating the shit out of the Young Boys.
Just because.
Just because Evil and Sonata are down already, and they were like, I gotta punch somebody right now.
Right.
I'm not punching anybody, and this doesn't feel good.
This is the kind of squash match that the Bludgeon Brothers need to be doing.
Yes.
A squash match that is 14 minutes long and where they can still lose and look like $1 million.
I agree with that 100%.
Spot of the match for me was Lance Archer with Evil on the top rope hitting like a combination Spanish fly, like vertical suplex out of fucking nowhere. Again, this man is 6'10", coming off the top turnbuckle with a move that a 6'10" guy does not fucking do.
Davey Boy Jr. Gets in like some solid suplexes.
Looks just like his dad.
Oh my god, that to me was the nostalgia match.
Sure.
Because Jesus Christ, not only does he look,
Kevin Nash was there too.
Not only does he look just like Davey Boy, but his performance is the same.
Right.
And like he has this gimmick, or I was describing it there, or while we were watching it, as like he looks like a World War II era brawler.
Yeah.
Like if you were to take like an SNK fighting game,
Sure,
and like take the British Air Force guy,
right,
Guile.
he would be that.
Yeah.
It's like Guile and Diesel.
Yeah. It really is. And honestly,
he looks great. Both of them looked great.
Yes, absolutely.
Came out of this match being like, I think I like Killer Elite Squad. Which,
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
throughout this whole thing, I was like rooting for the heels, but this one was really one where I was just like, these guys work great, and I really like them.
Absolutely.
Especially for a big team. You don't see big teams work like that.
Not like
ever.
that. No.
Really.
Their tandem offense was great. So surprisingly, they don't go over in the match. Evil and Sonata pick up the victory
Turns
after
out everything is evil.
a magic killer and everything is evil. Sonata hits moonsault, and then somehow they eke out the win. Killer Elite Squad looks pissed, beats up some young boys. Just Suzuki-Gun stuff, like you do. And of course, this match is followed by another Suzuki-Gun match, and it's hard for me to pick a favorite match of the night, but this one is. This is my one. It's hard not to pick it. Haruki Goto versus Minoru Suzuki in a never open weight battle for the hair.
Probably my second favorite match of the night.
That's fair.
This was my favorite match. This was great. This was like from the start to the finish, like entrances all the way down to the end.
Yeah,
end of the match. I was just enthralled.
Here's what I'll say about this match. From a storytelling standpoint, nothing on the card looks better than this.
Oh, absolutely.
Going in with zero understanding of the characters, zero understanding of the lead up.
Right.
This match told such a wonderful story beginning to end.
Right. That
I understood who the players are, what they're about.
Right.
And just everything about it clicked for me.
Sure. And credit to Don Callis and Kevin Kelly for really helping sort of sell the story of the match during the match. Because again, you guys went into this. The only thing you knew about it was the little rundown that I gave you a few weeks ago. But like, I've seen this match build up, and for me it was great. But it's great to me. Like it shows how well these guys did that. It was just as good for you guys, And I've seen a lot of people online sort of praising this match too, who were first time New Japan watchers. And it was a brutal match. I want to remind you that Suzuki is 52.
Yeah, and he looks it.
Oh yeah, and Goto is almost 40. But Suzuki beat the fucking hell out of Goto. He really fucking did.
Yeah. That was easily the best heel work of the night.
Sure. Those slaps.
It just. Yeah. All of it looked like it hurt.
Right.
There was a point at which Goto was severely bleeding out of his mouth just because he was getting hit.
I would not be shocked if Goto wasn't. I would honestly be surprised if Goto wasn't concussed by the end of that match.
Oh, sure.
Because he looked kind of wobbly at times.
At the beginning to like the mid to like farther than midway point, like it was all Suzuki, and he was just like letting like the announce team was like, "Hey man, just finish this," because it was like that's the kind of feel that you got. And I really just like you telling the storytelling was great because it was like
the story Suzuki that Suzuki beat himself.
Yeah, as Suzuki was better and he was the better guy, and he just wanted to make Goto really be like, "You will never be as good as I am, and you should not be here with me, and you will know not to challenge me again."
Right.
And even though Goto won, which spoiler alert, he did.
Spoiler for this fucking thing.
Yeah.
We're telling you how everything ends. So if you don't like it, then
you still felt
sorry.
Yeah, Suzuki would have won the match if he would have just finished it earlier.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, the story was,
and that's not even the best part of the match, in my opinion.
No. He had Goto multiple times ready, like basically passed out in the sort of the sleeper hold. But then he kept wanting to go for the Gotch style pile driver,
the neutralizer,
which he just didn't get. And of course that gives Goto just enough time to hit a terrifying looking avalanche Oshigoroshi.
Oh man,
which I'm surprised didn't just murder Suzuki's neck. It's a great spot.
Makes me want to see Styles do that shit.
Right?
Yeah. First off, the Oshigoroshi is just a fantastic looking move.
Oh yeah, and of course it being Goto's move, nobody does it better.
No.
So to see it come off the top rope like that,
he's just so smooth with it.
Absolutely.
And even coming off the top rope.
They did a replay, and I don't know how he protected himself.
Yeah,
like it was like square on his neck.
A lot of the replays tonight sort of get like, if you look at a lot of the replays from the actual broadcast, you can see some protection happening. You don't see it here. Like you see Suzuki's neck hitting Goto's knee. Oh, it's nasty looking.
Yeah, pretty much. The ending to this match is absolutely fantastic.
Oh my God.
It's a hair versus hair match. Goto gets the win. Suzuki immediately exits the ring, starts walking towards the back.
Mm-hmm.
You have the other members of Suzuki-Gun kind of like putting the towel over his head, pulling him out, and they're like halfway through the crowd or whatever, and he just stops.
Yep.
And then he turns around. He walks back into the ring.
Oh, he picks up a chair.
He walks back into the ring.
He's gonna hit him.
I was pretty sure that he was just gonna heel his way out of the stipulation.
Sure.
He takes the chair, puts it dead center in the middle of the ring.
Oh, he takes the chair and smacks the chair that Goto has set up.
Yeah.
To knock that chair out of the ring.
Takes the grabs the hair clippers out of Goto's hands.
Yep.
Sits down and shaves his own head. Poorly, but still. The story being told in just that of just how important honor is fantastic.
Oh, Suzuki. I mean, don't get me wrong. Goto looks good in winning the match, but Suzuki is clearly the standout star of this. I mean, Suzuki angrily holding this tuft of hair that he's shaven, looking at Goto and slamming it down on the chair is just a great image. And again, it caps off this story so well.
It's fantastic.
It's like this great way of looking at him and saying, "You didn't beat me, I beat me."
Right. Oh God, perfect story, perfect simple storytelling.
Yeah,
it's great,
amazing.
After this, we get what may actually have been my favorite match of the night. The junior heavyweight 4-way between...
It's mine. It's my match of the night.
So we've got Marty Scurll.
Loved it.
Marty Scurll comes out with wings on his villain costume, which is badass.
What was great about this is that I saw the Suzuki-Gun match, which is the Suzuki match, which was, I was like, all right, yeah, this is my, like, thinking about it back, I was like, this is my number one match. But as I was going through, I was like, I really like this guy.
Right.
And then Marty Scurll came out, and I was like, no. I really like this guy.
Yeah.
He's my favorite now.
Scurll comes out with the umbrella, the hat, the plague mask, the wings. It's fantastic. Takahashi comes out with Daryl wearing a luchador mask, which he deposits at the announce table.
If you weren't listening to our last New Japan roundup, Daryl is a stuffed cat.
Yes.
Like not like a formerly alive stuffed cat, but like, you know, if you were to get like a plush doll that was also, or that looked like a cat, but like looked like just a person stuffed doll, but happened to be a cat.
Yeah.
In a mask.
That's Daryl Takahashi. Kushida comes out as Marty McFly.
Oh, that was fantastic. Usual. I absolutely loved that. It was so goofy.
Yep.
How is he not getting sued?
Japan has every country that's not America has very lenient copyright laws.
Yes.
So they could get sued in Japan, but Japanese courts are just going to throw it out.
Basically, yeah. Sidebar, if you're going to go back and watch Wrestle Kingdom, if you haven't seen it yet, the Kentucky gentleman, Chuck Taylor, one of our best indie wrestlers here in the state of Kentucky, he every year watches Wrestle Kingdom and drinks during it, tweeting out Whiskey Kingdom. My two favorite tweets, one of them is this match. He's just in describing Kushida. I believe his direct quote was, "Brother's gimmick is he likes that dude where that guy almost fucks his mom," which is accurate. And then, of course, Will Ospreay, who just comes out as Will Ospreay, which is fine.
He's got purple hair.
He does, yeah. He has purple hair to match his tights.
All right, I have two things to say about Will Ospreay.
Sure.
First thing to say is,
boo.
Holy shit, is the guy a really good performer?
Sure, yeah.
If this was the spot match, despite the fact that Young Bucks were on first.
Oh, without question. There are so many spots in this match.
2, I fucking hate the whole thing of, like, anime cartoon calling out the move that you're about to do.
Uh-huh.
And if I never hear Will Ospreay scream out Os Cutter again, it'll be too soon.
What about Chicken Wing?
That's
Chicken Wing!
I think Brian's okay with that one.
Finger spots?
No, he doesn't call out the finger spots. He just do them.
Oh, no,
Screw you!
I know,
Snap!
I know you like those finger spots.
I like watching them, but they make me cringe also.
Oh, we get a great one here, too. So, yeah, Will Ospreay does a bunch of Will Ospreay stuff. I think there's one point where he jumps off of the turnbuckle, or walks off the turnbuckle onto Kushida's back to give a Hurricane Rana to Marty, only to get Hurricane Rana himself by Takahashi to land on his feet to drop kick Takahashi. Great.
Yeah.
Real fucking fluid. At one point, Takahashi gets taped to the barrier by Marty Scurll.
This is a real fun match to watch because you have 3 pretty high flyers.
Oh, yeah.
And then Marty Scurll, who does not fly at all.
Yeah, he's
despite coming out in wings.
Right. Marty is a junior heavyweight, and he's a small guy.
Right. He's doing the British bruiserweight kind of stuff.
It's real good. The finger break spot is perfect, and of course, watching Marty take it is even better because Kushida breaks Marty's fingers, and he immediately sells it, and then goes to find the med kit outside. Ends up with powder that he throws in Kushida's face.
So there's an interesting part to this.
Mm-hmm.
So Talk is Jericho, the Chris Jericho podcast, had Kenny Omega on the night after Wrestle Kingdom,
right?
In which they basically break down the story of their whole match, starting with the lead up of all the work that went into that booking, going through almost spot for spot of how the match actually went.
Right.
And there was a spot that they wanted to have where originally what they wanted to do was do like a fire extinguisher shot.
Sure.
But the problem with that is that Japan uses a different type of fire extinguisher than America does. They use the foam type and not the gas type. Yeah. So they couldn't do that.
Sure.
The other thing what they decided on was, I guess, last year at Wrestle Kingdom, or possibly 2 years before that, Kenny Omega did a spot with an antiseptic spray kind of thing. So in order to find the right thing, Omega had to go to a bunch of different stores before they could find the cans that were large enough to be able to play to the audience.
Sure.
And then hid them all in a med kit underneath the ring.
Okay.
Now the issue is that other people don't know about this.
Right.
So while Jericho and Omega are watching the matches watching this one in particular, they see Marty go under the ring, and Omega's quietly panicking to himself. Is Marty going to take this spray, which we need for later, or just as bad, is he going to reach too far in and knock the can over?
Which I could see Marty doing just as a rib because he's the villain. I'd be okay with that.
That whole thing was great.
That whole match, beginning to end, is amazing.
There's a really great spot where
they closed the gate.
Oh, yep.
They were like, I'm going to close this gate. You're not going to be able to get back into the ring.
Marty steals the Os Cutter from Will Ospreay at one point.
Yes.
There's a multiple sunset flip powerbomb spot where Takahashi runs from one portion of the ring, gets Kushida on the outside,
on the apron.
Sunset flip powerbomb, then does it to Marty, I think. Then there's a couple minutes of match, and then Kushida gets Takahashi back the exact same way. Big storyline here is Will Ospreay gets the win with an Os Cutter over Marty Scurll, which Will Ospreay doesn't get the big match win over Marty Scurll. So that's the story they told here. Really fantastic. It's a solid 20 minutes of just nonstop action. Really
apparently
is.
that match went over.
Did it?
Went over its planned time.
I'd believe that.
So
I fully believe that. The trouble with having this match here is the match that followed it really didn't get a chance to live up. So my second favorite Chuck Taylor tweet of the night, and Brian really liked this one. So next up we have Knife Pervert versus Soccer Mom, Jay White, Switchblade versus Hiroshi Tanahashi.
All right, so I don't know if my issue is the work in this match.
Okay.
I will say that I don't remember any of this match.
Yeah,
really.
It's not.
It's pretty forgettable just because it's kind of like smack in the middle of bookends of two great matches.
Sure.
Here's what my biggest issue with this match is.
Mm-hmm.
The film that they do for Switchblade beforehand,
Right.
where like he's doing his
Switchblading?
best Crow cosplay, I guess.
Knife Pervert.
Knife Pervert.
Yeah.
My issue is that he's like taking the Switchblade knife to like a book cover.
Yeah.
But like, if you know how knives work, you know that like he's not giving enough pressure to like do anything. All that he's really doing is like scratching the tip of a blade against a book.
Yeah.
And it just looks fucking stupid.
The equivalent of playing with his food. He's just kind of like moving the food around.
Yeah.
It's not great.
So at that point I was like, I don't give a shit about this guy.
Sure.
And then the match happened, and I was like, yeah, I still don't really give a shit about this
I thought
guy.
the promo in the package was interesting. I thought that it was an interesting like angle
I didn't
on
like the package.
it, but I just was confused as to what his thing was. Like he like wore all black and had like really black hair, and he was pale, and he was like supposed to be mean.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't get it. Maybe it like Nick said, it was like a Japanese take on an American gimmick, and it just felt slightly like it just had that feeling where it was just slightly off, and I don't know why. Can't put my finger on why it felt off. It just did.
The best part of this match for me was Don Callis pointing out that, Kevin Kelly pointed out that that Jay White had done his young lion excursion for Ring of Honor in America. And Don said something to the effect of, yeah, that's what happens when you take a nice boy and send him to America. Which really, it's just a throwaway line that, just Don Callis being
It's
Don
just
Callis.
a little joke.
Yeah.
He gets all these switchblades.
This match really, it was fine. The work was fine. It was not outstanding by any means. There was nothing really to stick out. I think part of that is because of the two matches that preceded it. Were both the three matches that preceded it even were just hit after hit after hit, and then we get this, which is, Tanahashi's working injured.
This may be the weakest match.
I'd say
First
so.
off, I think it's probably the slowest match for sure.
Yes, it gets a good 20 minutes, I think.
It's a little bit more cerebral, where it's like
Sure.
both of them are trying to injure the legs of one another,
Right.
but like going at it like really meticulously,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't. Compared to everything else, it doesn't play as well.
Absolutely. I agree.
You go from like kind of a balls to the wall pace of the past 2-3 matches, and you just slow it down to a crawl.
It didn't hurt anybody, but it didn't help either guy.
No, I don't think nobody looked bad
Right.
in it. It's just nobody looked great.
Jay White will look much better coming out of New Year's Dash, but we'll talk about that after. I'll give you the rundown real quick after we finish Wrestle Kingdom. But yeah, Tanahashi hits the high fly flow, goes over Jay White. Knife pervert eats the pin. Moving on.
Knife pervert.
That's so good. It's that's
pretty great.
Knife wrench.
So next we get the Alpha versus Omega match, the match that is basically the main event for the rest of the world.
It's rounded out my top 3.
Yeah. It was the only match to get.
Yeah, this is my number 3.
Yeah,
match.
That's fair.
I don't know, or I don't understand Dave Meltzer's rating system, but the idea that this match is the only one that got 5 stars when there were, or when I can think of 3 other matches that I think were as much fun to watch, if not more fun to watch.
This is why you're not the Meltzer man. This is why you're the Brian Ferguson man.
Yeah,
stupid.
No, I agree entirely. I would have given a 5-star match to. I would have given the 5 stars to both Goto and Suzuki and the 4-way match without question. But hey, Jericho's got another 5-star match to throw in his cap for his first 5-star match, I think, since he wrestled HBK in 2008. So
sounds right.
Feels good for him.
And don't get me wrong, this was a great match, and it definitely lived up to the hype.
Best Jericho match in a long time.
Some are saying best of his career. I don't know that I'm really willing to say that.
I'd say best in the past at least year, if not 2.
Best in trunks.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you that. Best in
Alpha
trunks.
That's fair, yeah. So many good spots, honestly.
Yeah.
They really sold this. This was this really came off as a fight, not necessarily a match, but a fight.
Yes.
Oh man, Jericho went at him early. Like,
absolutely.
There was a point in which he threw him over the barricade into like the announcer stuff, and like I was so worried about this person's iPhone that was on the ground.
Apparently that was Don Callis' phone.
And I was like, man, they're like Jericho was throwing chairs at Omega, and then he decided to throw chairs at the Young Lions, and
Jericho is doing amazing heel work in this.
Oh, absolutely.
Before we get into like just circle jerking on this match, I do want to say that there's one thing about this match that looked absolutely terrible in my eyes.
Okay.
And that's the opening in the ring kind of brawl.
Okay.
Where they're doing like the Shane O'Mac punches back and forth, where like they're in kind of the half grapple.
Sure.
And they're just like
kind of
overhand punching, but like you can tell that nobody's connecting to shit.
Right.
I fucking hate those in every promotion that they're ever done. And
That's fair.
Quite frankly, I think that was probably the only part of that match that took me out of the match.
There'll be enough stiff hits later to make up for it.
Yes, for sure. There's blood the easy way, and then there's blood in a weird spot in a hard way.
Yep. I want to, since we were talking about circle jerking and Jericho doing great heel work, at one point he has one of the Young Lions, who is the match referee, the Red Shoes, his son. And so Jericho attacks Red Shoes and then attacks his son and puts him in the Lion Tamer and just starts yelling at the referee, look at your son! This is your son!
Yeah, he does so much, there's great storytelling in this one because you have Jericho being loud Jericho.
Oh, yeah.
The only other thing that I can think of that kind of takes me out of it is that this seemed to be a little bit more of a brutal Chris Jericho, but he still came out in the lit up jacket.
Sure.
Which is a little bit weird, but I understand because I would wear that jacket all the fucking time too.
The ref also didn't seem to understand the stipulations. At one point early in the match, Jericho yells, "It's no disqualification," when he's telling him to break the hold on Kenny.
Or like early on in the match, he has Omega in the walls.
Right.
Omega gets to the rope, and the ref is doing the 5 count to break the count, and Jericho's just screaming at him, "It's no DQ, you idiot!" And it's just such
stupid idiot.
Classic, great Jericho.
Oh,
work.
absolutely. No, it's super good, and Jericho really has this match for the first 5 or 10 minutes even.
He puts him through the announce tables. He's setting up chairs.
Here's the thing about, for anybody who didn't watch this, the thing about Japanese equipment is that it's very different from what you know.
He's smaller. He's very small.
So first off,
table's thick.
The chairs are like
that's made of wood.
right.
It's made of real wood.
Yep.
So like what we know of as tables as kind of like the 4 foot wide kind of half-inch thick plywood picnic tables.
Yep.
They don't have that.
No.
They have like 1 foot wide, like 1 or maybe 18-inch wide,
like 3 inch thick.
2 inch or probably 2 inch thick, like almost cedar wood.
Yeah.
Tables.
They're nasty.
It's pretty well known that them's not easy to break.
Mm-mm.
So when people do go through them, it looks gnarly because you have a more contained surface area,
right?
For the impact to actually hit on. And second off, they don't really give.
Well, so
Jericho had ass blood. He went through a table.
Yeah, this sets up basically they set up a table on the outside. Kenny and Chris are brawling. Jericho goes up top, and Kenny runs and hits a V trigger to knock Jericho off and through the table. And you can see when the table breaks, it's not like here where the table breaks in half at a weird like angle and it's the whole table. You see like the chunk of table where Chris lands breaks, and the rest of that table's still real fucking solid.
Yeah.
And Jericho ends up bleeding from his ass.
Apparently, or they had tried to get in some American props.
Mm-hmm.
But the booker, I can't remember his name right now.
Gato.
Gato was like, no.
Yeah. Which I think made the match better, honestly.
Yeah. Definitely not safer, but
no.
Better. Now, the other issue is with the chairs. The chairs that we know in America are like solid, just steel chairs.
Yeah.
In Japan, what they are they're frames,
mm-hmm.
and then they have like a wooden pat or like a padded piece of wood,
right?
That's like screwed in, I guess.
Yeah.
Now the thing about these chairs is that when you hit somebody with them, if you hit them hard enough, the pad will break out. Or will just pop out.
Yep.
I'm sure it looked it looked good the first time that they do the hit,
mm-hmm.
but the second or when they show the instant the instant replay, you can see where Jericho is clearly holding the pad onto the chair,
right,
to make it look like it works.
Oh yeah.
There were a couple spots with the instant replay that I was like, this doesn't make anything look any better.
It's not helping.
Look a little bit worse.
Sure.
Broke at least 3 chairs there in that match.
Oh,
He was hitting him with the frame, and I was just like, ooh, this is worse. This is much worse.
Yeah.
After that, we end up getting a bunch. Like they're trading like a Walls of Jericho and a Lion Tamer, and then Kenny gets like 4 Snapdragon suplexes in a row, and I'm surprised Chris Jericho took those because they're real quick and they're real nasty, and they look like that you land on your neck every fucking time. Kenny hits.
Yeah, it's high neck landing.
Oh yeah, it's tough to watch. Kenny hits 4 or 5 V triggers. At one point, Jericho's most definitely bleeding from his mouth, and it's very obvious. Your finish to the match. Jericho doesn't kick out of a One Wing Angel, but he does manage to get the ropes. And I really like
that. I understand it's protecting that move because nobody's ever kicked out of it.
Yes,
he puts his his leg or his hand on the rope, and like the ref is like marking out, like pointing to it, just like and all of us are like
yeah, it's a great moment. But yeah, I really like how some finishers in New Japan are really protected like that. I think it helps, and so eventually. Jericho goes for a lion salt. Kenny Omega throws a fucking chair at Chris Jericho to knock him out of it. Picks him up, One Wing Angel on the chair, which looked rough.
Yeah, it's like a
it's
package driver or something like that. Like it looks.
It's an electric chair dropped into like a package, almost pile driver, but not quite. And
almost like a package bomb.
Yeah. So yeah. I believe the sort of like defined name for it is an electric chair driver. Killian Dane used to do it. He might still as the Ulster Plantation, I believe is what he calls it. But yeah, Omega hits the One Winged Angel for the 3 count. And it's
we did get to see the nasty New Japan code breaker, which I was real excited for.
Yeah, we got to see one of them, which is less than I would have expected. But I like the idea that it wasn't a finisher heavy match. It
Right.
wasn't trading finishers, with the exception of the Walls of Jericho. But that's a submission move, and I don't really count that.
I like that Jericho pulled out the Lion Tamer.
Yeah.
Given that he was in Japan.
I like that he brought in some kind of more traditional, older school Walls of Jericho, where it's the high Boston Crab or with the pressure on the side of the neck, as opposed to the low Boston Crab.
Yeah, this, it's basically a Boston Crab, which, how many guys do Boston Crabs? It's
Not a lot anymore.
That's fair. But I feel like growing up, I saw a fucking Boston Crab in every match.
At the time of Jericho, there were where Jericho was at his, I hate to say height, but like when he was performing the most, a bunch of people were doing Boston Crabs,
which is why you saw that high angle. What is basically the Lion Tamer.
Well, a lot of the reason why he used to do that high angle was just because American wrestlers are taller.
That's fair.
I mean, he's not a super big guy,
right?
So he's 5'9", something like that.
Yeah, 5'9", 5'10", something like that.
And that helped him in this match because he looked bigger. Right. Compared to like the Lions, like he kind of, I don't want to say towered over them, but he had like an inch or two on some of them. It made him look more intimidating, and it kind of worked towards his his character.
For sure,
it definitely helped. It was a great match. It really was. We'll talk about sort of the business that it actually did for the company in a little bit.
Bunch of it.
It certainly helped.
Mucho business.
And then, of course, we get your main event, Okada versus Naito.
I liked this match.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, it doesn't break my top 4.
No,
it's at the bottom of my top 5 probably.
Sure.
I think it might have suffered from the fact that I didn't understand the story going into it, but I also didn't understand or know of the story for Suzuki-Gun, but I got it.
Right.
This just didn't.
The match itself didn't really tell a story to me.
Felt like Reigns Lesnar when Rollins cashed in the Money in the Bank to win. That's kind of how this match felt, where like they were both like going back and forth, but it wasn't really like any super great spot work, and by the end of it, they were just trading finishers back and forth, and it just. I don't think any of them really looked good because like Okada came out, like I like both of the entrances, they were fine.
Sure.
One thing I noticed that New Japan doesn't really have is that the Americans or the Westerners seem to have the more theatrical entrances.
Sure.
And the Japanese people didn't, so I felt like that was slightly disappointing. Naito having the most theatrical entrance of them all, and that was basically just a costume.
Yeah.
But it didn't do it for me as the main event. It might have, like we were saying, suffered from the fact that there were a lot of really good matches before.
Right.
But I don't know. You did say that you did tell like a kind of a story where you're saying that like Naito was trying to hit like this Phoenix Splash or something like that.
It's the Stardust Press. So what I took.
I feel like the issue with the storytelling in this is that if you don't know what the background is,
yes,
you won't get it.
That's.
And I didn't want to call it a bad match. I think it was
no.
one of those where I didn't.
As I said, I mean, it's definitely not a bad match.
No,
it's a good match all the way around. But if we're ultimately pro wrestling is about storytelling.
Yes,
and with the Goto match, you could see what the story is without understanding it.
Yes.
With the Alpha Omega match, you could see that this is not, or the fact that was a fight and not a wrestling match tells a story in itself. It was apparent. This one, I feel like when you explained it after the fact, it made a lot more sense. But without having that kind of background knowledge of who or like how these guys used to perform versus how they're performing now, makes a lot of sense. But without having that lead up, it doesn't mean anything.
And I truthfully didn't think that Okada was going to lose. I was like, based on his title reign currently, I was like, I don't think they're gonna have him lose. So like that belief in me, I guess, took myself out of it to where I was like,
it took the wind out of sails.
I was looking at it and I was like, all right, so how's it? My whole thing was, how is Okada gonna win? Because Naito had the momentum for a good portion of the match, and I was like, all right, so Okada's gonna come back being the face and do face things, and he's gonna win. And that was my whole thing. On the same way, like I likened it to Lesnar Reigns, where it was like Lesnar was kicking the crap out of Reigns, but everybody knew that Reigns was going to win, or that he had to win. So you're just looking for it. You're looking for that turn in which
how does it happen?
Where's Reigns going to win? Not how is he going to, not who's going to win, but how is he going to win?
Sure. That's I think so. Spoiler alert: Okada wins. Okada wins with the Rainmaker.
He did like 8 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of against that, especially with how protected Jericho's and Omega's finishers were in the match before that.
Sure.
With, like, we had 1 Codebreaker and 2 One-Winged Angels.
Right.
Having, like,
Between
8
the 2 of them,
Rainmakers?
they had like 12 finishers. Naito did that like flippy move, which was really
Destino.
cool. Yeah, and then Okada did 4 or 5 at least Rainmakers.
So I'll explain before I get to the story. The Rainmaker is a weird finisher.
It doesn't look that strong. It looks like, and this is a good part where I was talking about it, and I was like, "Is that JBL's finisher?"
Right. Yeah.
And then halfway through the match, I just start playing JBL's theme, and Nick's like, "What is going on?"
I was.
What is this?
I was really confused, but then I was kind of really happy because they both have the sort of money gimmick. The thing about the Rainmaker is you are going to see 4 or 5 of them in a match. It's the weirdest finisher. It's not incredibly protected in that one will put you down. It's more of a war of, with Okada, it's like a war of attrition. Okada's going to try and hit that Rainmaker as much as possible to keep you down. So he hits 4 or 5. There's one point in the match where they zoom in and you can see Okada's still got Naito's wrist. And they're both out. He's just delivered a Rainmaker, but Okada's still got wrist control. And so it's a weird finisher in that you see it multiple times in every match. It's hard to explain, but at the same point, you heard the crowd when he hit it too. I mean,
they go off.
Yeah.
It'd just be weird. It'd be weird, like HBK tuning up the band like 4 times. I'd be like, "What is
agreed?
going on?"
Absolutely agreed. Which is why, of course, at the end we get the jumping, spinning tombstone pile driver, which is terrifying, followed by a Rainmaker to finally cash it off. But the story of the match, and really this match does suffer from the fact that if you don't know the 4 years of story of both of these characters, you miss a lot in this match. And the reason much like Suzuki beat Suzuki in the Goto versus Suzuki match, Naito beat himself in this match because Naito wanted to go for his original finishing move when he was a face and couldn't get over, the Stardust Press. And he could not hit it. And in not being able to hit it, Naito kind of lost the match for himself, which is a big part of the story here.
I also noticed that Naito, like stylistically, Naito and Okada are very different. Like,
Yes.
Naito is much more nimble, and I don't want to say athletic, but like he is more willing to go to the top rope, and like even with the Destino, like he flips and does it. Whereas like Okada is very much a 2 feet on the ground,
right?
Sort of
Got a
straight
great
up
drop kick though.
Straight up, like, I don't want to say brawler, but like wrestler. Like,
Yes.
it was really interesting to see the 2 styles go back and forth. And what I thought was different, I thought Naito was, just based on what you had told me, was going to be the more on the ground kind of guy, and Okada being the face and being the longer guy would have been able, but it is just completely different.
Right.
It was really interesting.
They do wrestle very differently. A lot of people were upset that Naito didn't win. But I think honestly, look, Okada has had a tremendous reign. He really has this star quality. They're trying to make him a sort of modern day New Japan legend, and they're very. He's got the longest title reign in the company now. If he holds the belt until Dominion, he will have had the most title defenses ever during one reign. I think at 14, because he'll have one up to Tanahashi. So it's kind of a big deal that he still has the belt, and I don't see him losing the belt. Honestly, I see him losing the belt to Kenny. I don't see him losing the belt to Naito. Naito has had the belt once. He doesn't necessarily need it. And of course, as we'll see at New Japan New Year's Dash the next day, Naito is now in a feud with Chris Jericho. Jericho is sticking around in New Japan for a little while, which is really exciting. It looks like Kenny Omega is now feuding with both Cody Rhodes and Switchblade, Jay White, who has joined Chaos, which is kind of interesting.
Switchblade.
I see that sort of splintering the factions there.
I watched that part where Kenny's trying to get Switchblade to join Bullet Club.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know why this is the guy to like reunite the Bullet Club when he just lost his match or
Sure.
his big match. So I understand that like
He is
they
white.
needed to build
Whites
him
go
up,
Bullet Club.
Right.
Gaijin.
but it kind of like threw me off as to like I don't understand how this is the guy who's gonna fix everything.
He already wears all black.
I understand why they did it because Bullet Club is mostly a Gaijin stable, and so let's bring in the other foreigner who's kind of vicious and brutal, and let's get some of that back in Bullet Club.
Like the mentality seems really flawed. Of like,
Sure,
I know that this marriage isn't working, but maybe if we had a baby, it would fix it.
Yeah, no, it's admittedly not the best angle.
No, it's not terribly good writing, but
But I see where they're going
yeah.
and what they have to do. New Year's Dash was interesting because it sets up. We're going to see Suzuki, who is very angry now because he's bald, taking on Tanahashi for the IC title. I imagine he'll take it, which could be really interesting.
And if Tanahashi's working injured, then that'll
Yeah.
give him time to
That's
rest up.
kind of what I'm
Get him
thinking
time
is
to
going to
Ambrose.
happen. So it set up some really interesting feuds. We're going to see Chris Jericho stay around for a little while, and that makes a lot of sense because Wrestle Kingdom did some fucking great numbers. Castle Wrestle. We had almost 12,000 more people in the Tokyo Dome this year. We had from last year's Wrestle Kingdom to this year's Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan World subscribers increased by almost 40,000. So they have about 100,000 worldwide subscribers now, which is a big deal for a wrestling subscription because the only other big name in town is they're not competing with High Spots Wrestling or Chikara. So that's having 100,000 is a pretty good number. With Jericho in the Dome, they did almost 1.13 million extra in ticket and merch sales, which is a sizable number for a company that did, I think, $44 million last year total revenue because they're the second biggest company. It's a fairly big drop off. But this was the biggest total attendance for a wrestling show outside of WWE since WCW folded. It was a big deal. And it's very interesting to see what they do this year. The president of New Japan talked about wanting to get more guys who were in WWE or who had recently left WWE to come in to help build up business. And it was really interesting what he said because, of course, a long time ago there was a big partnership between WWE and New Japan in the 80s and early 90s. They would trade talent all the time. It wasn't uncommon for Hogan as WWF at the time champion to wrestle in New Japan. Hulk Hogan in 1984 won the G1 Climax. In 1986, Andre the Giant won it, or maybe 85. So that talent trade used to happen all the time. The president now would like to get back to that point. So he's basically saying, we'll keep using, guys who leave the WWE until the other side would like to do business with us, which is really interesting.
I wonder how much of everything that you see between New Japan and WWE right now is maybe more often a work than a shoot. Like how much of the Young Bucks invasion angle was maybe known.
Sure.
As opposed to being this big thing of fuck the system. Maybe they were working within the system, which wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, I'd hope so because Vince allowing Jericho to go might have created a monster.
Vince apparently said not only should you do, or not only can you do this, but you definitely should do this.
Right.
I know, but
signed off on it right away. Apparently, it was a big concern or on Jericho's standpoint. He technically did not have to ask because he was not under contract. But
right.
Jericho is definitely a company man.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, 2 years from now, when New Japan is doing just as much, or is a very close second to WWE, and Vince, if he's still in the position that he is, gets a bit uncomfortable, he'll look back at this moment and say, "I think I might have fucked up."
Right.
Maybe it's just like
because
too short-sighted of me, but I don't see WWE ever having a competition in the same way that they had with WCW ever again.
That would be very, very difficult. Wrestling would have to... First off, you'd have to have a hot period in wrestling again, like you did in the Attitude Era. Second off, you'd have to have a company who financially could go.
Right. I just don't think that anybody has the money to be able to do it.
Right.
I think it makes more sense... I think it would make more business sense for both companies or all companies involved for WWE to start working more with these smaller promotions.
Agreed.
As opposed to against them. I can understand the WCW WWE feud just because both of them were performing at the top of their game.
Right.
And you had these two owners who really hated each other.
Right.
I mean, each of them were, there was never going to be a moment where one or the other wasn't trying to bury the other one.
Absolutely. Bischoff was worse about it than Vince was, but my God, was Bischoff tunnel vision. Let's put McMahon out of business.
Right.
And he almost did. Let's not forget that. Almost did.
Right. So, I mean, I think that it makes more sense.
Won the world championship.
We're seeing it. You mentioned this earlier with, earlier to me. I don't think that we've done it on mic. With Pete Dunne is going to be facing somebody from New Japan.
So for the first time since 1993 and only the second time ever, for I believe it's IPW over in England later this month, you will see an IWGP champion against a WWE champion when the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne takes on Will Ospreay. This is kind of a big deal because, again, you have two champions from basically the number one and the number two company on the planet competing in a match for a third promotion. This has only ever happened once before, I believe 1993, Hulk Hogan versus Antonio Inoki. I think Hulk wins, but I don't quite. I've never seen the match, so I'm not entirely sure.
It's not on list of Hulk's clean losses, so
yeah.
It's self-listed.
But needless to say, this is a rare occurrence, and it's interesting to see where they go here because this is now two WWE versus New Japan matches in the same month.
It could mean big business for both companies.
WWE mentioning, Gallows and Anderson were allowed to mention Tama and Fale, and that's,
Announce team mentioned the IWGP heavyweight tag titles.
They mentioned the Elite.
You've got
offhanded, but still mentioned them.
You've got to remember, even back when they would mention WCW during the Monday Night Wars, it was in a very burying way. There was no prestige to having been a former WCW guy. No. So for them
being a WCW guy was an insult.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim Ross and Lawler and McMahon on commentary would bury the other company. And so for the IWGP, tag team titles to get mentioned as far as, Gallows and Anderson having held them and to get mentioned with prestige, I don't know. It's a really interesting time to be a wrestling fan right now because even though they're
big changes,
right? Even though New Japan is very clearly number two and very, very far behind revenue wise, you have Mark Cuban who believes in them, and if there's one guy who's got money, it's motherfucking Mark Cuban.
That's all I'm saying is that there's a bunch it's pointing up for them.
Yes,
and I would hate in the next. Well, I mean, I really don't give a shit,
sure.
But I feel like Vince, assuming that he's still at the head of this whole thing, this WWE juggernaut, might look back and kick himself if he doesn't make the correct decisions going forward regarding New Japan.
Right.
Because you just saw how much they did just with one draw in Jericho. If he has multiple people leaving or trading talent that he's whatever with, he could create some sort of monster that he has to deal with now.
October,
but at the same time, having another monster to compete with isn't a bad idea.
It's good for business.
You have to keep in mind, while it almost destroyed both companies, did destroy one company, they were doing no better business than during the Monday Night Wars.
Feel like
they went from two less than 3.0 ratings most Monday nights, up to 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s. I mean, those are huge fucking numbers. Especially in the era of cable TV where there was shit to do and shit to watch on Monday night, I
don't know. I feel like they have this pipeline of talent in NXT, and if they start allowing other people to get off their, if they don't put these guys under,
oh yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. There's a whole bunch of options, a whole bunch of things might happen, but NXT is doing so well, and I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, if Paul or Triple H or whatever you want to call him ends up taking the reins earlier rather than later, I think you might see a hard turn on what happens, which might mean more business with New Japan. But unless Vince is softened over his years, I just don't see him really being open to. He's like, we're the number one thing in town. Why would I give a shit about you? But if he just does a lot, couple missteps, and Cuban and a couple other people could probably do this.
Oh, absolutely. I think with a cash influx from a guy like Mark Cuban, who has a network, who wants to see New Japan succeed because he really seems to enjoy it. And look, the WWE could have two very high-profile losses this year in Daniel Bryan in October and Dolph Ziggler.
I mean, all you need is
up.
talent, because they have a wealth of talent that they're not using correctly according to the talent and people like us. All they need are big draws to go to the other thing and have them perform and be like, oh shit.
A top mid-card guy in the WWE can with the chains off in New Japan be a star.
I mean, Ziggler going over there, and I think he immediately works.
Oh, absolutely.
Same thing with Bryan.
I mean, Bryan's wrestled in Japan. Bryan's got a history in Japan. He's over there already. Bryan's still one of the biggest draws in the WWE, and he's not even fucking wrestling. I think for New Japan.
Right, but look at the other side of that. Mm-hmm. You take a Kenny Omega and you put him on Raw. Do you see him being one of the top guys?
It depends on
SmackDown. Yes.
It depends on how they use him. Honestly, would you see them putting Omega over current Raw roster or top tier roster?
Balor's not even getting over, and hasn't been getting over, so probably not.
Not with Vince in charge. I really don't.
As I said, SmackDown, he would definitely fit in with what they have.
Yes, absolutely.
But Raw, I would say
Roman
top
Reigns.
mid maybe.
Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. Nobody's going over Roman or Brock or Braun. So, and I say that with all the love and respect for Grapple Hook Braun, but look, until we get past the Roman Reigns experiment, and Brock Lesnar kind of gracefully bows out and goes back to retire in Suplex City, nobody's coming up on Raw.
We're in a state of sort of.
So no, I think you're right. I think Kenny would be stuck in the mid card, which is insane because you saw that match with Jericho.
He has all the 5-star matches this year.
Literally, in 2017, 4 of the 5 top matches, according to the Wrestling Observer, Omega was in. Granted, 3 of them were with Okada, and I think the other one was with Naito, but still.
All right, let's run through New Year's Bash real quick.
Oh, all you need to know about New Year's Dash is you have.
Sorry,
no, it's okay. All you need to know
the
about
Great American Bash.
So you have Dissension in the Bullet Club.
Spinner U.S. belts, everything.
Cody attacks Ibushi. Kenny makes the save. Cody and Kenny get into a fight, and I'm thinking they're gonna drag that out. That might be the main event for the 10,000 seat show if they can't get someone like Jericho or Punk.
Punk ain't coming back.
They can't get Daniel Bryan, so I mean the next best thing is to get Punk.
If Punk goes to New Japan, I think Vince shits himself.
Oh, absolutely.
I think Vince and Paul both just go,
oh. I think if Punk were to go to New Japan, we get Vince in panic mode.
Oh, yeah.
And really, I think it's the same.
Especially if you see a couple other possible talents leave. At that point, you're just like Vince is like rubbing his pants like I'm doing right now, just going, oh god, what am I doing now?
Right, because ultimately it doesn't matter if Punk goes to UFC. Because quite frankly, UFC is now becoming a feeder channel to the WWE somehow.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
So it doesn't hurt.
Win the Rumble.
It doesn't hurt Vince if talent is going off to UFC.
Right.
In fact, it probably makes him look a little bit better and gains a little bit of credibility.
Absolutely. But if CM Punk, who left as one of the top guys, decides I'm coming back to wrestling and I'm going to wrestle with the Young Bucks, I'm going to wrestle for Japan. Yeah, it's rough.
He would actually fit in really well with the Bullet Club, both in kayfabe and out of kayfabe somehow.
Sure.
Because if I understand it correctly, both the Young Bucks and Omega don't drink.
Right.
They're all straight
They're good.
edge.
They're good Christian boys. Those good Christian boys, the Young Bucks. No, I know, but they are. They're good Christian boys. But yeah, I think
Omega, from my understanding, has never had a sip of alcohol in his life.
Correct, which is weird to think about when you hang out with Gallows and Anderson, but it's a thing.
Hot Asian wife.
Reading novels. But anyway, so yeah, Ibushi gets attacked by Cody. Kenny makes the save. Kenny invites Jay White to join Bullet Club to help bring some unity and viciousness back to the club. Jay White agrees and then gives Kenny the Sister Abigail, which Jay White calls the Blade Runner.
I like the name better.
Yeah.
I'm a little biased, to be fair.
That's fair.
I hate that name.
First off, it steps on Bray Wyatt, which I think could be better. Also, Blade Runner is the greatest movie of all time.
If you want to know our thoughts on Blade Runner, check out the Towers Underground podcast.
81?
Maybe.
It's
It's about to come out on DVD, or the new one's about to come out on DVD, so we'll probably be talking about that soon when we binge watch 8 versions of 2 movies.
What else? We get... So yeah, Jay White kicks himself out of Bullet Club right the fuck away. Ends up joining Chaos, which is weird because he's a heel in a face stable. We get Tanahashi versus Suzuki set up. Suzuki's really pissed about being bald, and he wants to murder Tanahashi because that's what Suzuki does.
He's going to get a different belt now.
Yeah. And then, of course, we set up Naito versus Jericho, which they kind of were setting up in the lead up to Wrestle Kingdom because Jericho was basically saying, yeah, you can think this is the main event, but me and Omega, that's really the main event.
And Naito still being Naito, can't let go of the fucking past.
It's good storytelling. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that's going to happen at the Long Beach show in late March, right before WrestleMania. But that's your New Year's Dash rundown. That's your Wrestle Kingdom rundown. That's New Japan. That's the biggest show of their year.
And that's the podcast. Good night, you marks.